Hello everybody and welcome to the all-new Pretty Good Gaming Costpad number 7.
Costpad.
I'm going for the Faulty Towers type thing where you just mix up all the letters and
just jumble
make
it up.
something interesting. I think
Since the cats are still missing, we've not had any contact about them being
rip, isn't it?
Yeah,
Rip cats.
rip cats.
So we're gonna have to come up with something new. So we're just going with Costpad this week.
Costpad.
We'll see what it is next week. So this is number 7 now, and we are going to not a lot to talk about today, right? We're just going to get into that very soon. Bit of an update though for you guys who are wondering on the Patreon. This will be our second to last podcast of the year. Next week will be the last one because we're shutting down for Christmas after that. FYI, just to let you know, it's my birthday on Monday, so I'm going away this weekend. Yeah. Got a weekend away. So this is we're recording this on Thursday. You should get this on Friday morning. So just to let you guys know that we're not in the office Friday or Monday because I've got a weekend away. They're treating me to a weekend away in Centre Parks in Cumbria.
Oh, weren't they nice?
That's it's not for my benefit at all. It's just
you're probably still paying for it.
Yeah. And I'm driving all the way home on my birthday. That's going to be a fun birthday, right?
Good time.
That's going to be a really fun birthday. Anyway, let's talk about games. So what were we talking about first up this week, Henry?
Right. There was an article by gamesindustry.biz which was about whether AAA games, AAA single player games, are viable again. And there's kind of the debate about
they died, didn't they?
Yeah, because apparently,
yeah, according to the media,
the industry likes to think that single players die.
Single player games are dead,
even though literally no one who plays games actually thinks that. So the article essentially says about how the single player games this year sold really, really well compared to previous years and compared to multiplayer games, which always do well, but single player is kind of up there as well, and seems to have taken the world a bit by surprise. They look at games like God of War, Spider-Man, and Assassin's Creed. They've all done really, really well.
Yeah.
And none of them have any multiplayer component at all.
Yes, which is perfect for me.
Which is grand, yes.
And you think about this in terms of last year. Like the whole thing about, single-player games are dead was based around the fact that PUBG did so well last year. Fortnite did so well last year. They're breaking records. They're making record revenues and all that kind of shit. And then the whole of the industry, the whole of the gaming news, the whole of all the journalists come out with this. Multiplayer games is where it's at. Single player games are dead. And then there was that thing with the Star Wars. The
one with Visceral.
Visceral Games getting shut down because they were working on a single player experience, and there wasn't enough.
They didn't align with their business model. And their business model is games as a service.
There wasn't enough opportunities for current consumer spending, which is bullshit. So they completely smashed that. And in the wake of that announcement, everyone was like, "Well, single player games are dead, aren't they?" No, just the people chasing money. Exactly. Stop making single player games because they're just chasing fucking cash and they're not actually interested in making decent games.
Yep.
But come this year, you've got God of War. Smashed out the park, no multiplayer at all.
Nope.
Perfect, absolutely perfect.
Yep.
And you got Spider-Man again, amazing game, absolutely perfect. For me as well, Detroit Become Human, single player game, no multiplayer, absolutely perfect. What was the other one that you said?
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed again.
And even,
I haven't played that, but I won't call that perfect.
Well, I think for a lot of Assassin's Creed fans, it's good as Assassin's Creed. Like, for a lot of people who don't care about Assassin's Creed, we're still not going to like it. I've fallen off with Assassin's Creed. I'm looking to try it out again, but it's still done well financially. That's kind of the
point of it. Yeah.
The point, yeah.
True.
But as we kind of just touched on, the only people who believed that single player was dead were the publishers, because they can't make as much money out of it as you can with multiplayer, because multiplayer you can bastardize it with microtransactions and loot boxes, and you can keep pulling money out of the consumer's pocket.
It suits them.
Exactly.
It suits them. That's what they want. They want us to accept, and they want to feed us all this bullshit that, single player games, we're not going to make them anymore. We don't make enough money.
Yep.
So these big corporations are like, well, multiplayer games that's the only games that are viable. Bullshit. You just want to make more money.
Yeah, and if you lie to the consumer enough, I think they seem to believe that the consumer will eventually start to be like, oh yeah, multiplayer games are the way forward, and they're trying to trick us psychologically, but it's not working.
It's a narrative that fits their agenda.
Exactly. And it's bollocks.
And it's bollocks. we smell this shit out a mile away.
Yeah. But then you look at these games mentioned. God of War sold 3.3 million copies in 3 days, which is absurd. That meant that they beat the record for fastest selling first-party game on the PS4 out of lots of very successful games on that console, like Uncharted, like Horizon. They're all really good critically, but this one just sold amazingly. And then just a few months later, Spider-Man walks in. It's like, hold my beer. Coming in with like 3.3 million as opposed to 3.1 million.
Boom.
Just beating that record all over again.
Another console exclusive.
Exactly. And then back to Assassin's Creed, had the strongest launch for the franchise this generation. That's after, what's the other one? Origins.
Yeah.
Origins was pretty well received. Yeah, a bit of a sort of reboot for the franchise.
Yeah, well,
more like a style reboot.
That was a game that they took 2 years out to make, because it was yearly up until that point, and apparently the game took twice as long to make, or twice as long than usual from customers' point of view anyway, because you waited an extra year. However, it sold twice as much. Origins sold twice as much as the previous Assassin's Creed entry, which I think was Syndicate.
Yeah, it was Syndicate, and Syndicate it's not like bad, but it's just a bit like meh.
It is bad.
I enjoy it.
I played a little bit of it, and it was like, this is just.
I think the big thing for me is the setting. Everything else, I'm like, this is just whatever. But I like being in Victorian London.
Yeah, that makes sense. It just didn't connect with the story or the characters or anything else.
It didn't break any new ground, and it was just it didn't do the same mistakes that Unity did, but it didn't exactly fix anything really. Yeah. It just didn't shit on itself.
Yeah.
But anyway, Cory Barlog, who people may know as the game director for God of War, he said in an interview with IGN that single players are like the phoenix at the moment, as if they were kind of dead, but now they're rising from the ashes again, kind of like an underdog coming back, better than ever before.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily agree, because I'm not sure they ever did burn. I think so the development end. Yeah, I can kind of see that you might think that, because financially anyway, the big multiplayer ones often do well, and the single player ones, while the quality is good, they don't necessarily hit those numbers like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or anything like that. But
to say that single player games are rising from the dead, you have to accept that single player games died in the first place, which, based on that premise, I don't agree with what he says, because you've got to assume that single player games died. But for people like myself who predominantly play single player games never died. They just there wasn't enough AAA single player games at the time. Maybe I switched my focus to indie games, or I found my fix essentially.
Yeah, you will never always find it. Yeah, and I think just because in all the advertising and marketing, it's always Call of Duty and stuff, I never listen to that stuff, because if a game looks good to me, it looks good to me. Yeah. If I see one advert and I latch onto it, then I will go and look at it. If I see one on TV, if I see 100 on TV that are like a game I know I don't care about, that's not going to influence me. Yeah. If I see 100 COD trailers on TV, I'm not going to care.
Yeah,
that's just me, I suppose.
We're talking about a very specific context here, where a single player game's dead. We're talking about the cream of the highest production values for games. We're talking about the biggest AAA games, the biggest publishers, the biggest game developers, and the most money going into games, right?
Yeah.
And that very top end, on the creme de la creme of game budgets, single player games died off, because everyone's chasing money at that point. When you get to that top cream tier, everyone's chasing money. And for Cory Barlog to say that single player games are a phoenix at this point, I think he's referring specifically to that very cream at the top.
Yeah, the AAA confidence more than anything is a thing that I think the comeback that people are talking about is where that's focused.
Yeah,
because single player it can be a bit of a risk, because there's not the guarantee of like recurring players as there are with multiplayer. Because multiplayer has more longevity typically with consumers than single player. So I think now that publishers are seeing how well single player is doing on its own without any multiplayer, they're like, okay, so this is, as games industry biz say, a viable financial option.
Yes.
I just disagree that they were ever dead in the first place.
No, but it fits the narrative, right? Because if these game developers are thinking, what my next project's going to be, how do we develop our next game? Do we have to go multiplayer because there's no money left in single player? And that's the narrative that they might have been exposed to. for Corey Barlog to come out and say this, to say that single-player games are a phoenix, and for the success of God of War, Assassin's Creed, and Spider-Man this year, getting huge headlines. Red Dead Redemption as well is another example of, because if you leave out the online portion of that, the game did really well commercially at launch. That is a narrative. That is now something that might influence these people making decisions about where their next game is going to be. These developers who are at a creative kind of crossroads, I guess. Yeah. If they decide based on all these good results for single player games that single player games are viable, then that's good. That is good. Absolutely. That is good for the industry, and that's why I can agree that Corey Barlog should say things like this. Yeah,
because it'll inspire his peers more than us as the audience.
Yes, so exactly.
It'll be people in his immediate sphere and his teams, because he's going to have underlings.
Yes.
To be like, yeah, we can make single player. So I imagine for a lot of devs, they're building like a really cool idea. They've got this story, but they're like, multiplayer, like, it's going to make us a lot more money, and then not from like a greed perspective, but with more money coming in, they can spend that and send more things out. So they might be pressured, perhaps is the wrong word, but enticed into doing the multiplayer thing because it's more profitable. But then if you look at successes with these single player games, and Corey Barlog being like, oh no, there is this Phoenix-like resurgence, I think they might be like, okay, no, we can do single player and it can work.
Yeah, I think pressure is the right word in a lot of ways, because if you think that a mid-sized developer needs to be concerned with how much money they're making off a game, and if they feel like that the game that they're creating is going to be not going to be financially a success for them, they're not going to make the money back, they're not going to be able to pay bills because the game isn't selling so well, there might be the pressure there that eking into the minds and that thought process where if I just make it multiplayer, or if there's any sort of multiplayer, maybe that'll sell more. Because there's always that, Fortnite's done so well because it's multiplayer. There's PUBG's done massively because it's multiplayer. All these multiplayer games, you can sell microtransactions, this and that. I think the bigger conversation here is around how much these games cost to make. There's so very little information out there about how much a game actually costs to make.
You can't really quantify it.
Yeah, I mean, the devs aren't open and honest about this type of thing. All right, Jason Schreier might put a couple of articles together and say that here's the anonymous sources that told him this and told him that. But realistically, it's a very grey area in terms of reporting on and understanding exactly what pressures these game developers are under at any specific level within the industry.
Exactly. One of my favourite things that this article does kind of touch on is the industries move away from tacked on multiplayer, because you get games built for multiplayer and they do really, really well. But then there was a time where they list like a bunch of them when they're traditionally single player games or franchises, and then in one of the entries they just stick a multiplayer in, and that's not like a blight on the quality of that, but it's just kind of there. So some of the ones they listed were like Xbox 360, PS3 era games like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Batman Arkham Origins, Bioshock 2, Dead Space 3, Metal Gear Solid 4, and Ninja Gaiden 3.
Yeah.
All of those traditionally single-player focused franchises with this extra multiplayer component that's not necessarily bad. Like, I know I had fun for like a couple of hours in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood's multiplayer, but it didn't like hook me. I didn't stay with it. I played it for a bit. I was like, oh, this is all right, and then moved on.
Yeah, this is a weird one, right? Because you've got to assume that the outside pressure to do this, to tack on this this multiplayer component of a traditional first player game, must have come from publishers, must have come from the people who decide that how we're going to make money off this product. It's more to do with making a full product that you can sell to the most amount of people. And I think that's where games go wrong, or went wrong a lot of the time. Especially, I mean, Dead Space 3 was one of those ones that got criticised for the fact that it lost a core of what the game was, because it just tried to appeal to too many people. And, it lost its horror element. And, it's well documented that that game suffered because of the pressures put on it to have the multiplayer component.
It's definitely good that the industry has moved away from this, because it means that we can get more focused experiences, be that single player or multiplayer. Because with Call of Duty, realistically, most people don't get the what biggest amount of time out of it, the most fun out of it from the single player. You can complain about Black Ops 4 lacking a campaign if you want. I know it does put me off, but I wasn't going to buy that in the first place anyway. So not bothering to do a campaign isn't like a bad thing to me, because they're like, well, multiplayer is what we're good at, so we can take those resources and that time spent and focus on making the multiplayer component the best it can possibly be. And that a lot of people have praised the multiplayer for it being, yes, it is just Call of Duty again, but it is more of what we like and better and tighter.
Yeah, I think there's a real good. The success of Call of Duty this year has done well for the industry, I think, because if the people that complained that there was no single player, I get that they're going to miss out on the single player component. However, the fact that Call of Duty has been very specific in what its appeal is, and just appealing to a very specific type of gamer, the online gamer, the same as the way that God of War dealt with specifically the single player gamer, and this. The way that the games have been trying to appeal to single players and multiplayer gamers alike across the field, that is starting to go away, and people are starting to realise that. And hopefully the success of Call of Duty consolidates that in the minds of the publishers and the developers, that understand that a game has to be something very specific. It can't be, you can't try and appeal to everybody, because you'll end up appealing to nobody.
Exactly.
It has to have something very good at its core and very appealing at its core in order to attract people in the first place. Because if you're just chasing cash, trying to throw in loads of different elements and gameplay types and stuff into your game, then eventually you'll fall on your arse. And hopefully, that's the lesson that's been learned.
Yeah, it's really important to know your audience and know what you're trying to make and who you're trying to make it for. Because it's, in a lot of cases, it's better to be amazing at something than just average at everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And Call of Duty are good at multiplayer, whether or not it's your kind of multiplayer. In raw numbers, you have to look at it, how well they do. They know what they're doing, and they're capitalizing on that. And
that makes more room in the industry for games who do single player really well, like Wolfenstein, or the single player first person experience like Metro series, which I've been playing recently. I'll talk about that later on in the podcast. But single player narrative linear first person shooters, they're out there. Like, you don't need Call of Duty for that, because there are other games out there that arguably do it a lot better than Call of Duty ever did. So I think that Call of Duty being very specialist in what they're giving and what they're giving to the consumer now, that is a good thing for other developers who want to fill the gap that the single player portion left, for example.
So you could get more games coming out solely single player, but doing like Call of Duty like things, like military based first person shooter or shooter experiences, proper story driven, but in that kind of military lens. Like a game on 360 generation called Spec Ops: The Line came out, and pretty much no one bought it because it just looked like another military shooter. And because Call of Duty was dominating then, and along with Battlefield to a lesser extent, no one really cared. But that game is really good. There's loads of like weird psychological shit that happens in it. So if we get more experiences like that, I think that'll be great, because it's a market that hasn't been given its due credit. I don't think the war quote unquote genre. Like, I want to get some really good war movies like Saving Private Ryan. Like, I want a game of that quality and scale, but of a single player focused experience. I think that would be awesome if someone can do it right.
Oh, definitely.
Without like filling it with multiplayer nonsense.
Yeah, or excessive kind of movie like, Call of Duty last year, for example, World War II. That was something that I was really excited for, because it kind of appealed to the older gamer in me, who appreciated the old Allied Medal of Honor type games where you arrive on the beach and it's that D-Day experience where it was just like Saving Private Ryan, bullets whistling past your ear and stuff like that, and it's really intense and atmospheric. But however, you look at what they did with World War II last year, where it was just like, it was forcing cinematics into it and taking a lot of control away from the player in order to force you to look at this big explosion that we've rendered. Look at this awesome big set piece that we've got over here. That isn't gameplay. What that is like trying to force a movie experience into a game. Like, give me something to worry about myself. Give me the Give me something that's immersive, that you don't have to force me to do things in, because that isn't immersive.
See, God of War walked that balance perfectly, because there'd be a big cutscene, set piece thing, and then it's like, all right, training wheels come off, now you've got to deal with the fight. Now you've got to deal with what's going on. And then it's like, okay, you've done that. Let's pull out big cinematic thing, and then we're going to come back down again. And that's the difference. You need to have the scale and then the closeness, which puts the player in control. Because that's what games are. They makes you feel powerful and to feel like a superhero and all that. But
just like real life.
Just like real life. So in raw numbers, Call of Duty made 500 million domestically, so in the US, in 3 days.
This year?
Yes.
Black Ops 4?
Black Ops 4.
Okay.
Which is pretty impressive. If you look at the movie industry, which is a comment the article highlights really nicely, Avengers Infinity War, probably the biggest movie of the year. Not necessarily the best among people.
Yeah.
Depends what you're into. But undeniably one of the biggest movies ever.
Yeah.
It made 258 million in its opening weekend. So that's the film industry.
So that's half.
That's like half.
Half of what Call of Duty made. Yeah.
So you've got to understand how that's just to like scale it.
Just to illustrate how really popular and really well that Call of Duty did this year, because you can talk numbers all you want, but unless you've got some sort
something
of
to compare
it to,
But then if you go back just a couple of years and look at Black Ops 2, that made 500 million in 24 hours. So in one day.
Wow.
Now you could argue it's a shift in public perception towards Call of Duty or industry things, or could it be because that one did have a single player? And I know a lot of people have been turned off from Black Ops 4 because of the lack of single player. So there's a kind of speculative debate to be had about whether Black Ops 4 would have done even better if it did have a single player. To be honest, I don't really think it would have.
I don't think unit sales are the biggest driver these days. People don't judge a game on unit sales, especially in a multiplayer game where you've got recurrent consumer spending and microtransactions that are bigger in the industry than they ever have been. If you compare with Black Ops 2, they're probably making a multiple, many multiples what they made in microtransactions on a game like Black Ops 2 with Black Ops 4. And that's the trend that you're seeing with the likes of EA and things like that, offering games day one on like a subscription service or whatever. I don't care about unit sales anymore. That's not their business model. The business model is these subscriptions and these people who are buying microtransactions, because microtransactions and all those like payments that you get for cosmetics and shit like that, they make up over half of the revenue that the industry takes these days. So it's really huge. You think about that 500 million that they made in that opening weekend. They've made the same amount again just in microtransactions. But that isn't reported, is it?
No.
So I mean, it looks like Call of Duty did really, really well this year, but it's made a fuck ton more money than is reported. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's done well so far, but it's going to keep doing well for a long time.
Yeah, it's going to have a long time.
And they're going to sustain it for ages. Well, I say ages until next year when they bring out another one. But then this isn't the end of tacked on multiplayer in some cases, because Ubisoft have come out and said that they want to put multiplayer back into the Assassin's Creed franchise. Whether or not that's like a patch to add in multiplayer to Odyssey, which I think is probably unlikely at this point, but in the next one, probably next year, I would expect to see a multiplayer component, unfortunately. Yeah,
I think Igamo, CEO at Ubisoft, has gone on record saying that cloud computing is the future, and I think they are working on that. You saw, I think it was in Japan, that the Assassin's Creed this year was available to stream on the Switch through a third-party streaming service. So there is this push with these big developers, especially Ubisoft, since, like I said, Igamo's on record as saying that this is the future. Among these bigger publishers to seek out these cloud-based online service type experiences. So multiplayer being a part of that, you've got to assume that that's what they're looking at doing.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the way that Ubisoft do the multiplayer has put me off in the past. I always think back to Watch Dogs 2, where there's no need for multiplayer to be in that game, but it's not done as a tacked on. It's not done as a separate Unity thing like GTA 5, for example, or GTA Online, where you go and play specifically online.
Yeah.
You're in your game, and then you have people like riding on motorbikes, like flying past your face while you're playing your single player game. Yeah. Get out of my game. I never want that in a game. I never ever want that. Why would you ever want that? And I think if they do that again in Assassin's, it's like the first thing I'll do is turn off like the microphone or turn off the local multiplayer component of the game. Who wants that?
I don't want that.
Who even wants that?
If they do like GTA and Red Dead, where you've got your main campaign, which is brilliant, and Red Dead is a perfect example of how to do really good single player and have a decent multiplayer as well, not feeling like tacked on.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people want it for the single player and a lot of people want it for the multiplayer. But if they did an Assassin's Creed multiplayer thing like that, where it's got its own space, its own like entity. Mode, it makes sense. I can play on my own without some idiot just fucking it up, and that's my biggest criticism of Red Dead Online at the moment. Is that I just want to... Yeah.
Just the online.
Just
the other people.
Yeah, like, just other humans. Like, playing it with your mates and stuff would be cool. I really like the cooperative missions and that.
Yeah.
But I just fucking hate getting grief
so
all
annoying,
the time.
Aren't they?
It's
just people are annoying. People are annoying as just
I'm like, yeah, generally... I can kill them, but the amount of satisfaction I get from killing them isn't as annoying as it is when they kill me, so it doesn't balance out. It's not worth it. But we've got another video coming out on Red Dead Online stuff shortly, hopefully. Might already be with you. Who fucking knows?
Shortly, hopefully.
Time is a complicated thing.
Okay.
Well, then there's the ultimate question: is single player really making a comeback? For publishers, yeah, because it means that there's a confidence restored with them that they can do it, and then that's like a trickle down effect. So if the guys at the top are doing it, the guys at the bottom maybe like AA studios. Because indies will always still be doing single player, because that's more experimental market. But the AA level, if that's even what you would call them, but the lower level, the people who aren't Ubisofts and EAs and all that, they're going to be like, oh yeah, okay, we can make what we actually want to make without having to pander to the multiplayer market, because that's what people want. Yeah. So I think from that perspective, yes, they are making a comeback. But for consumers, they're not making a comeback because they never went anywhere in the first place.
Exactly. This whole conversation is around the AAA, like creme de la creme tier of game production. And I think that, I mean, the main takeaway for me is that this year has shown us that single player, it's not going anywhere.
It's alive and well.
You think about all the successes single player games have made this year, specifically, Sony and the exclusives that they've knocked out of the park. But that also, the fact that Call of Duty has been so successful, being very specialist in multiplayer too, it leaves more space for single player AAA games to come out and say, well, they've done it, they've succeeded. Call of Duty isn't doing it anymore. Other people are moving out of our way. Why not let's just do what we want to do and not pander to these big publishers who say we have to tack it on just to make more money, because it can be successful on its own, because this is the evidence right here.
Yeah. Or just never listen to publishers, especially the big
just sack the publishers off.
Yeah, just get rid of them. The developers generally they're the good guy because they're like us. They make games because they love games. The publishers are there to make money and profits and stuff. They're not all evil, but there's a certain angle that they see things, and there's an agenda.
I mean, let's not demonize them too much, because money is necessary, because without money nothing happens. Okay, there's nobody goes to work, nobody gets paid, equipment isn't bought, the lights don't go on. Money is essential for the continued developments and productions. However, it's easy to say that they're just greedy, they just want this and that. There is a line though. There is a line when the likes of Bobby Kotick, who is the Activision Blizzard CEO, taking home like $20-30 million a year in bonus on top of his salary at the end of the year. When
it's despicable.
It's like, well, that's just greed. It crosses the line from being essential to just being like these guys are just really greedy, and they're just like lining their own pockets with your microtransaction money, essentially.
Exactly. So you should be making your product to break even and then have a little bit of profit. Well, like, not even a little bit, like as much profit as you deserve. You've worked hard, but you should have enough to make your game and then divvy out any extras with everybody. None of this CEO box, but that's in like every industry. It's not just the games thing. But yeah, don't listen to publishers when they try and tell us as consumers what we want. EA have done it before, saying like, oh, games as a service is like the only way forward and all that. I'm like, right, you can think that, but I will think what I want to think. I'm not going to think that single player is dead just because you say so. If I see, there's 12 months in a year. If there's 12 decent single player games, well, not even decent, if there's just 12 single player games that are like, yeah, it's all right, I had fun, that's good enough.
Yeah, sure. And I think that more and more, especially in the YouTube, YouTubers come out and they say, they tell the truth a lot of the time. All right, a lot of it is hyperbole, but this narrative that games industry and games publishers or whatever, and the general games media report on, that single player games are dead and all this bullshit, that hopefully there's enough YouTubers like us out there saying, nah, it's just bullshit. Don't listen to that shit. And eventually people will become enlightened and realize that is just fits their narrative. Fits their narrative.
Yeah, just try and think for yourself. Like, if you like something, that's fine. Like it. Don't just be like, oh well, these people at the top say this, so they must be right. Now, if you like it, you like it, and I like single player, and it's probably going to stay the same forever.
Yeah, to be honest, that is true. That is true. There's always going to be people wanting to play single player. That's for sure. Yeah.
On a little side note, my favorite multiplayer, not necessarily multiplayer, but like multi-person experiences. I have a lot of fun playing games like Until Dawn, which are single-player, story-driven, but with a group.
Yeah.
Where you can all weigh in on the decisions and stuff. I think that's like my favorite kind of multiplayer. I like cooperative multiplayer. Like, I had so much fun playing games like Gears of War, and even like Resident Evil 5, because this co-op's fun, but it's the competitive stuff that's not really for me. But that's fine.
You're more like a couch co-op experience where you can enjoy in a social environment with friends.
Working together to build a better world.
Such an idealist.
Part of it's just because I'm so shit at video games. If I'm playing competitively, I just get fucked. And I'm like, all right, I'll go over to a single player and have like a power fantasy and kill everyone. But yeah, just
there you go. So is that the end of our single player discussion?
I think
that was a meaty discussion. Anything
hearty.
Was a bit good discussion. So we're going to take a break now because we've been recording for around about half an hour. We will be back after this short little interlude segment of music. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the all-new Pretty Good Gaming Costpad number 7. I had to check what I'd call it this week. It's the Costpad. So this is the section where I'm just going to talk about some of the games that I've had hands-on playing this week. And it's not hands-on early access to any games. Unfortunately, it's just a couple of games that I picked up and I thought was interesting.
Just what we've been having a go with.
So first up, I'll talk about a new game that was... it caught my eye. It's called X4 Foudations. Now, if anybody's familiar with the X series, X3, X2, X1, no, but there was other ones. X, like there was a shitty one after X3, but anyway. It's basically a space simulator, right? It's just like a really deep, complex, go into space and do what you like kind of sandbox type of game. A bit like Elite Dangerous, but not online, just a single player type of game. Now X4 is it's just that it's very intimidating and like just I'm not going to talk about it at length, but I was really interested in it because I'm interested in the space sci-fi type of thing. I played a lot of EVE Online in my time, and that's kind of what it reminds me of a lot. And I'm really looking forward to Star Citizen, whatever eventually comes out of that. But a sandbox in space, it's certainly got my interest. However, it's very intimidating for anybody who is interested, based on me talking about it today. It just takes ages to figure out. Honestly, the first hour and a half was me just figuring out how to control the ship, figuring out what the fuck I was supposed to do, because it doesn't tell you. The tutorials are really basic, and you have to learn that pressing like H or whatever to get to your tutorials, and you got to click your tutorial, and it's not very natural.
User-friendly.
Yeah, it's not very natural. It doesn't come very easily. That's for sure. You've got to press like Shift and 1 to go into hyperspace, like fast speed. Like you've got to use 2 buttons literally, in order to go to like to go to the fastest speed. And it's like, oh, you know, it's complicated, but it needs to be. It needs to have that level of complexity. Thanks, because it's so ambitious. Now, this is the type of game that you start off as a single person with a single small ship, and you go and mine. You can go and be a bounty hunter. You can go and be a robber and just like rob things. But you can end up like all the way down the line with a huge fleet, an armada of ships, and commanding a full kind of fleet of ships at your disposal, and you can have like NPCs automating the operation of these ships, and you can send them into battle, whatever, and you can do what you want. You can tell them to go mine for you, whatever. So you start off at the very bottom, and it's such a sandbox. There's loads of different factions, as you can imagine, and it's very deep and complicated. And I just wanted to give a brief snapshot of. I'm like 3 or 4 hours in, and I'm not even scratching this. I've only literally just learned how to move around,
how to fly,
and how to get a mission. Oh, it's not that I've done a mission yet.
But I've been 3 hours in, done no missions. Sounds like Red Dead.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the ones that you've got to look at YouTube tutorials. The problem is that there wasn't many out when it launched, like last week. So it's still very new. So I'm still waiting for these YouTube tutorials to trickle in so I can learn how to play the frickin' game. And
maybe you could be one of the first. Your debut was like, this is how I figured out how to walk in a straight line.
You know what? I went on the Reddit page and I was like, oh, tips for newbies. And I'm like, I don't even know how to move my character. Never mind make money. It's like these are tips for newbies. Oh yeah, if you remember X3, well, I haven't played X3, so I know I don't have that frame of reference. So it's like first impressions, such an intimidating but deeply complex and probably ultimately very rewarding game if you're into that kind of thing. Like the No Man's Sky thing is just so simple in comparison. No Man's Sky, you go into space and you fly around and exploring new planets, stuff like that. I like the appeal of that because it's simple, but I think when it comes to space games, either you go fully sim and fully like deep and complex, or you go like a little bit too simple for my liking. And there's none of that. There's not enough games in that like mid range where it's like a little bit very complicated but accessible at the same time.
Yeah, you need that level of depth, but you need to be able to like get to it without like spending ages reading
and learning how to,
especially reading like on YouTube. It's kind of one of the things that annoyed me about games like Bloodborne is the story. It's there, but then you go on YouTube and it's here's all the lore. I'm like, I like, you know, non-linear storytelling and all that, but just give me something instead. I don't want to have to read like supplementary material to figure it out.
Yeah. And these kind of games can be so intimidating, and I know they've got a very limited appeal. You think like EVE Online, if that was offline, I would play it. I would love it. But if you just look at the UI and how many like, it's just like screens for days. It literally is. It's like
menu management.
It is menu management. However, this game doesn't seem that bad. It seems pretty cool, and I'm enjoying what I'm playing with it. And I'm interested to learn how to go about and do things because I want to be a fleet commander. I'll be honest. I just want to be Jean-Luc Picard.
That's goals.
That's it. I just want to be Jean-Luc Picard.
My very own Death Star and all that.
But it is the game has only just launched, and it probably will get patched and updated and added loads of content in the future. So I'm seeing this game not as a game that I can pick up and play and have loads of fun now. I'm seeing it as a kind of long-term investment, as like the space sim that I dip in and out of whenever I like and don't have to be committed to because it's online. I just pick up and play and, you know, live out my fantasy of being a space guy, essentially. So yeah, that's one for the future for me for sure. I'm only just getting started with that. And the other one that I picked up was Metro Last Light, and the reason I picked this up because I played Metro Exodus at EGX, like a demo level, and I was blown away by it. It was just fantastic, and it's one of my most anticipated games coming up next year. I think it's 22nd of February that Metro Exodus which is the newest Metro comes out. So before that happens, I don't know a lot about the series. I want to get to know what Metro is and what to kind of expect a little bit more from Metro Exodus. So that's why I picked up Metro last night. Just playing through it because I heard it's a really decent game.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, made by 4A Games, originally published in 2013. Excuse me, and it's based on a series of novels by a guy called Dmitry Glukhovsky. I think I got that pronunciation right. And 4A used their own 4A engine for this game, so it's it's not Unreal. It's not one of the engines that you. And it's not like a Fallout engine or anything like that. And what's funny is like picking up Metro last night. It looks really good. I mean, visually, it's really appealing. And if you consider that this game came out in 2013, early 2013 as well, I think it was May's time. And then Fallout 5, not Fallout 5 at all, Fallout 4 came out 2.5 years after that and looks significantly worse graphically.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, like, I'm playing this game and it holds up really well compared to, like, even Fallout 76 that I've been playing a bit of this year. It's like, you're talking five years in between these games, and it's actually better. This 5-year-old game is better than Fallout 76. But that says more about Fallout 76 and the Fallout engine than it does about this game. Because that is a shit show, and we all know how much of a train wreck Bethesda are at the moment. More of that in a bit with the questions. But my impressions of Metro last night, I've played maybe 5 hours, and I think that I'm maybe approaching halfway through the game, and it's an on-rails first-person shooter essentially, and it's in the setting of a subterranean post-apocalyptic Russia. Essentially, so the nukes have come down and killed everyone on the surface, and the only people that are left in the world are the ones who escaped to the metro at the time.
Yeah, the underground subway systems and stuff.
So on the surface of the planet now, it's all highly radiated, and to travel and traverse around the surface of the planet, you need a gas mask, which you need to have. Cartridges of air for, which can run out, by the way, and you can suffocate, so you have to go salvaging them, but the surface is covered in like monsters and like winged beasts and like really creatures who come out. So it's a really toxic environment, a bit like being on YouTube. A bit like gaming media at the moment on YouTube. I'm just joking. So that's one aspect of it, and the other aspect is the civilization. The people themselves, they all live underground, and they're just getting on with life, essentially. It's a grimy, dirty world. But there's, this civilization, there's like families and shit. They're all crowded in the metro.
Modern day Russia. Just a bit grimy, but there's nice people.
A bit grimy, but they're getting on with it. And a large part of what appeals about this game is the world, like just the setting, the characters, and the atmosphere of the world. Because it feels, although it's a first-person shooter that's just kind of on rails, and it's not open world or anything like that, it's a game that draws you in with its world and how just awesome like the environments are and things like that. Just walking around in the metro, listening to conversations. Like a part of the tutorial is you've got to walk through a section where all the characters are just sitting and milling around and having a conversation. You can stand there and just listen to them talking for a while and just listen to what their problems are, and like you're just like an observer of this world that's going on around, and it's got that feel to it where you're immersed in this world, and that's helped by the fact that there's pretty much no UI in the game as well. So it's like it's not gamey at all.
That's something I very much noticed when it was first being marketed with trailers and stuff. There's very little UI,
like in Exodus, right? Yeah.
And you've got like your gauges and stuff of radiation on you or something.
Well, yeah, I think in Metro Exodus, which is the one that's upcoming, you've got like a journal and you've got a map on the back of it. So it's a real like physical object where you take your journal out of your pocket and you turn it over and you've got a map of where you are, where you're going and stuff like that. So there's no screens, there's no like menus, sub-menus, whatever. And in Metro Last Light, it's kind of the same, but you've got a watch, and on the watch it'll tell you how many like minutes of air you've got left in your gas mask or whatever. And there's a little light on it. So a large part of the gameplay, not just first-person shooting, is stealth as well. Yes. And this comes in when you're underground, like fighting versus the the Nazis essentially, because there's a faction of Nazis there. So you can fight against beasts above ground as well as these Nazis on the ground. But a large part of that can be stealth based as well. So there's like mechanics where there's gas lights where you can dim them, and there's like chip switches where you can turn all the lights off in an area, and then you can sneak up on them and stuff like that. Now a watch has got an indicator, a little bulb on it, which tells you if you're being seen by an enemy at any time. So again, another physical cue to let you know what's happening, but that's on your person. That's on
I really like that.
And you've got this this kind of zipper lighter or whatever. It's like with that you can, because there's monsters underground as well as spiders and stuff, and there's like loads of environmental like things that you go around in the dark with a lighter, and it just feels very, very real. I don't know, it's very immersive.
And
it's
grounded.
Such a great game. And so I'm enjoying my time with it. So I've mentioned a lot of. I mean, what's notable for me is that it is quite difficult at times. It's one of them games where you'll die and you'll go back to the beginning of the area. But if you're not familiar with the layout or where the enemies coming from, and once the enemies get alerted, they send out these reinforcements. A big alarm goes off, and reinforcements come. Then they're heavily armored guys who come at you, and you need to like shoot them in the neck or in the weak points in the arms to take them down, or take up the helmets off before you can take them out. And it gets really difficult sometimes. So, like taking the stealth approach can be the preferred method of killing them sometimes. So it can be difficult. That's something that I wasn't really expecting. And I think I pretty much, to sum up my time with it so far, the setting and the presentation are just top notch. You're thrown into this world which is visceral, if I can use that word again. It's really a really well made world, and I think that's part of the appeal. That's why people like this series so much, is that this world is. There's one part where there was like a theater show on, so there's just like can girls doing like things, and like in Red Dead when you can go take in a theater thing. Exactly the same thing. You can just sit down and watch what's happening on the screen. I thought it was awesome, like, because you can just carry on if you want, or you can just sit there and take in what's happening around you, because this is happening around you whether you pay attention to it or not. It can be a part of your experience or not. But I think that's why you make a connection with this game, because it's got that rich depth to it in terms of the setting. Yeah,
and then with the minimal HUD, if you do want to sit there and watch stuff, you will then just kind of forget, because you've not got all the icons and stuff, like your health bar and your ammo and all that crap cluttering up your screen. You can just sit there and watch me like, okay, that's cool. And you're totally immersed in not just the game, but that specific scene of like whatever's going on. I really like that. I like minimal HUD.
Yeah, it is really good. And I had a lot of good times with it, let's say. So far. So obviously I'm anticipating Metro Exodus coming out, and Metro Exodus, from what I've played of it back in EGX, is slightly different. And what the research I've done on it so far is that it's not quite so on rails. It's in Metro Last Light, you've got this one small kind of area where there's enemies, one kind of big type of warehouse type room where enemies are moving around, and you go about killing these enemies as you want. But in Metro Exodus, apparently, it's kind of semi-open world, big environment. So you can, you've got more freedom to move around and take on the enemies in whatever fashion that you like, come from different directions or whatever. And they've improved a lot on the AI as well. One of the things that I noted when I had my times on with Exodus was that the enemies will tell each other where they saw you last, rather than if you enemies get alerted that you're in the area, they won't all automatically rush to where you are, no matter where you go, and not everyone will be alerted. With the AI improvements that they've made to Exodus, a guy will tell his compatriot, whatever, comrade, where you are. It's over by the bus. Go and take my bus. But by then you could be behind the building or whatever. You could lure them over to one area by giving them a false kind of cue. And I like that about a game, giving it more freedom. Yeah,
especially as you say, it's like stealthy. I really like stealthy games because you get that extra level of strategy with your enemies in it, but then they can really fall apart if your AI is crap.
Yeah.
So if you've got really good AI in a stealth environment, that really like excites me, because it means you can play with the systems and like fuck with the other guys. I think that's really cool.
I think what appeals to me about it and about the series in general is that there's a good balance between having fun playing a game and being realistic at the same time, because that is always there is a balance between the two there, and it feels like there are enough lifelike mechanics in the game that just feel natural, that you can have fun with at the same time. So that is my rundown of what Metro Last Light. I think you pick it up for like, you can pick it up really cheap sometimes in the sale, but I think I paid like 14 quid for it on GOG. Because I just want to support GOG because CD Projekt, innit? And
they're good lads.
Support those guys, and it's DRM free and that too. The same price as Steam, but you can probably pick it up like £5 during the Steam Winter Sale or whatever. I've seen it on sale a lot in the past.
I think it's one of those series that people who like it love it, but it just doesn't get that traction. Yeah, a lot of people just don't notice it.
I think Metro Exodus will change that. I think it's got the potential to, at the very least, because hopefully it gives you more freedom. Because it's all good having a single player linear first person shooter like the old Call of Duty first single player campaigns. That is essentially what it is in essence. If you break down what it is, it's all good and well having that, but games are more interesting to me when you've got different mechanics on it, like an RPG system. And apparently in Exodus, they've got this system where you upgrade your weapon. Like your weapon is your upgrade, is your progression. Yeah. So the more that you upgrade your weapon, the better you are as a character and everything. There's no deep RPG mechanics in it, but it gives you something else to think about, something else to occupy your time, and not just running around headshotting people or whatever. Which is it's just a shallow experience in my eyes. You need to merge your genres into at least three. If you can tag it with 3 different genre tags, like a third person open world RPG, that kind of thing. Obviously, gets me more interested than just a first person shooter. But anyway, we'll see how it goes with Metro Exodus, 22nd of February. I'm really excited for that. So that is my rundown of what we're on 20 minutes in. Of the second half. We've got about 20 minutes left, so let's take some questions, eh?
Questions? You can have some questions. Where are my questions? There we go.
These are from the Discord,
right? From Discord, from my friend who I will always spell the name of correctly. Metal Shark, Mr. Beachhorn. All right.
There is an ENNA in Metal Shark. It's just you got confused between Metal Shark and Beachhorn, right?
Well, beach has an A in it.
Life's a beach, isn't it?
I feel very.
Was that
guilty.
An apology? Was that an apology? That
I am sorry. I feel very guilty. Do forgive me. You're a good.
You're a good lad.
You're a sound boy. Anyway, your question was really good. So let's get to it.
Let's get to this question.
Okay. Do you think we'll see a revival of the choose your own adventure genre? Now, children are increasingly using smart speakers, something like an interactive Audible or remote Dungeons and Dragons with Alexa as the dungeon master. Could there be other audio-only games, adult Mad Lib, party-style ones, etc.? I think that would be really cool. Choose-your-own adventure story things where you could have the Alexa or whatever telling you what's going on.
Have to be a cool voice, something like
get Morgan Freeman to voice.
Exactly who I was thinking of, Morgan Freeman.
Right,
Morgan Freeman narrating your choose-your-own adventure. It would be
great,
the best.
Or even just get James Earl Jones who does Vader, do a Star Wars one with your thing narrated. But I just think that'd be really cool. And then you get all your kids, stick them there. They're all sat down, focused on the story. It is essentially like D&D, like a tabletop thing.
You don't know kids well if you think that 5 or 6.
Well, no, but this is my point.
A group of kids going to sit around and not argue and.
Well, yeah, but that's part of it. It will get them riled up, and they'll be screaming at Alexa, and then she's going to freak out.
Yeah,
but I think it'd be really cool.
No, it definitely is.
With your thing, because you could kind of take it anywhere as long as you've got enough battery for your and internet for your Alexa. Mm-hmm. Sit it down in the car, and then it can be telling them the story, and then they can vocalize their their options about which path to take. I think that'd be really awesome.
I think it definitely is an avenue for the future in terms of tech. They've definitely got the tech there now with voice recognition, speech recognition, things like that. Obviously, you have to iron out and interpret what people say, because you can talk in so many different ways and express things in totally different ways. Maybe if it was like do you want to go left, right, or
you'll have to limit.
Do you want to use your sword, or would you like to go passive or something? You know, just I mean, I can definitely see it working. Very limited appeal, though. I feel
it would be quite a niche, but I think there's kind of like the stuff like Kinect with the movement sensors. A lot of people, like traditional gamers, weren't into it, but it was a big thing in like the mainstream market. People who aren't gamers, so it's a family thing. I think it'd be really good, like family group social.
Yeah, that's sure. Yeah, they'd have to iron out how that would work with a group of people. Because if it's just one decision to be made and there's a group of people, like how do you facilitate that?
Yeah, you have to have like when you're in primary school or whatever, you've got you can only speak if you're holding the special bear.
Is that what you had? A special bear?
Yeah, or like so when Alexa's saying the thing, like whoever's holding the bear is the only one who's allowed to give the options.
Okay.
And then you'd be fighting over the bear.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's something. That's definitely.
It'd make Let's Plays really funny. They're just kicking the shit out of each other,
smacking each other over the head with the bear.
Carry that
was the nose. Okay, so next is the second part of this question.
A similar question, but it's a bit different. From Metal Shark again, and I promise I will spell your name correctly. Now Microsoft have stopped making the Kinect, and it's unlikely to see it's unlikely to see a revival with the next generation. Should Apple or Amazon purchase the technology to add fitness capabilities to their smart TV devices, especially as the former has the healthcare ecosystem, or should it just be marginalized to quaint PC development experiments? It's not something I would necessarily be interested in because I am horrendously unfit, and I don't think that's probably ever going to change. But I think you might as well. I don't think there's any use in letting the tech go to waste. So I think if one of these companies, like Amazon or Apple, could nick the technology and then put it in their smart TVs and stuff, I think they're.
I don't know. I feel like that tech is already dated. You think about the advancements in technology. I would rather than just start from scratch and just do a decent job. Because one thing I remember about the Kinect, right, is that it's. I mean, if you compare it to like the Vive, HTC Vive now, where you've got like a 360 kind of movement, so you can do something behind your back or whatever, and it'll still pick it up because it's got multiple cameras. The Kinect is just still very basic in terms. It's like the PC. It's like the PSVR thing where you've only got a camera in front of you and it only tracks front of you. I feel like if they're going to use this technology for tellies and for fitness or in the future, I would much prefer them to come up with something a little bit more versatile, a little bit more complicated.
I think if they took the tech and then like stripped it apart and reworked it so it wasn't like exactly the same as the Kinect, because the Kinect is just like a motion sensitive camera. Yeah. And they could track more space.
Yeah. It never really worked well for me.
No, I've played the Kinect a handful of times and I wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
But I think it's interactive kind of real world AR, VR things on TVs could be a cool market in the future, but I don't think we're there like right now, especially to be like mass produced on an affordable scale, and that's actually going to last and isn't a gimmick, because that's the risk you often have with these sort of things. You'll pick it up and then you'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then you move on. Like 3D TVs, who really uses 3D TVs anymore? Because there was like a big hoo-ha with that, but they don't really matter anymore. Yeah,
it didn't really take off. But I mean, it's great that these types of technologies are getting experimented with, because you never know where they'll end up. And I strongly feel that AR has got a huge future because of just how practical it is compared to VR. If you can imagine an experience where a group of 4 people put on something like a Google Lens or whatever, Google Glass, some type of glasses that you put on, but it doesn't change everything you're looking at, only puts AI, what's got augmented reality. So you might see a monster in front of you or whatever. You imagine like paintballing, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, where you've got like a completely empty room or a building or something like that, where you can have these experiences where you just instead of like you've got these zombie experiences now where you go into an area and like, oh, proper zombies chase you. That's great, but you've got to pay these zombies. You've got to pay these actors or whatever. Imagine an AR experience where you don't have to, and you've got a gun, so you can go through this building, and you've got a group of 4 of you, like a real life Left 4 Dead experience where you're shooting,
and the building could just be your house.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the versatility of it, right?
And I think AR stuff would be perfect for like card games, because I'm not really interested in card games. But if you imagine a game like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or like Magic the Gathering or like Gwent. You've got your kitchen table or whatever.
Yeah, it's 4 of you around a table.
And you've got your section and their sections and all that, with all your decks out, and then you put your card down, like you throw out a Charizard or whatever, and then
you throw out a Charizard.
I'm hip and know modern Pokemon for sure. There's one that's a frog. He's sort of modern, right? It's like a ninja frog.
You completely lost me with Charizard, I'll be honest.
Right, Charizard's the big orange dragon. He's quite famous.
I didn't ask you to explain. I just said I didn't know.
So you play that card to do the move, to like do the attack on the opponent, and then it would like come out like it would in the Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon. I know it's talking about Pokemon here, but like because in that show they'd put the thing out and then the whole thing comes out and the 2 monsters like fight each other and
like
stuff.
Star Wars, the chess in Star Wars where like the monsters kind of fight each other.
Like that.
Essentially that kind of thing. But I mean, you can see it happening in front of you. I mean, your real life actions have an effect, and you see your monsters that you're playing with cards fighting. I mean, that's awesome
because it's not like holograms or anything, which the tech doesn't like exist yet, but because it's just on your peripheral headgear thing,
and everyone sees the same thing happening. I think in terms of VR versus AR and like technology in the future, I think VR is, for me personally, if I was to make a prediction as to one of the biggest, once they get it right, once they can get it lightweight and stick it on your eyes, and the processor power's fast enough, and it doesn't need to be wired, and it's just very unintrusive tech that you can stick on yourself and have this awesome immersive experience with. I think that is the future.
Tell you what's just popped into my head. I had an app on my phone which my brother told me about. It's kind of the aim was for like fitness, to make your runs a little more interesting, but I used it like on my walk home from work, and it's like just like a Google Maps thing. It piggybacks on that, but it pins zombies in your map. Right. So the idea is that you walk home, and then if you get caught by a zombie, you're out, you're dead or whatever. So the point is that it makes your run more interesting, because you're then going to like avoid the zombies, and you can set their movement speed. They could be like the rubbish Shaun of the Dead zombies where they're completely inept.
Yeah. Or
they could be like the 28 Days Later zombies where they sprint and they're like crazy. You can set the level of infestation or outbreak or whatever. I think if you had that on like a VR thing, you'd look like a bit of an idiot running around with a box on your head if you're out for a run. But I think it'd be really cool, because you'd have like zombies coming at you in the real world. You look over your shoulder while you're jogging, and there's one.
Makes exercise a hell of a lot more interesting.
Exactly. I hate exercise and don't do any of it, but if I could pretend zombies were there,
a game,
I could make.
That's why football's so good. It's a game and it's exercise at the same time. Football's awesome. If you can use tech in order to make a more game, like a computer game type experience out of it, where you're running from real life zombies and you're shooting them. Yeah. Fucking give it me.
That'd be great. Football's not, but give me the zombies.
Well, we'll agree to disagree.
So I'll tell you what, even
everyone's entitled to their opinion, no matter how wrong it is.
ARify football, because I think it was like a sizzle reel trailer thing for it. I think it was either rugby or football, but they put on these like crazy effects where every time they kick it, there was like a big fiery explosion and shit, and there was lightning. Put that in football, then I would be much more interested than a bunch of guys just running about. Jazz it up a bit. Add a bit of drama.
Not enough jazz hands.
Jazz.
So I hope that answers it. I mean, we went off a bit on a tangent there.
AR
beach, but there
is
you go.
the way. All right, so now we got one from Rogue Request. This kind of links to the video we did yesterday, actually. How do you feel about multiple digital storefronts and the competition they bring being good for customers versus the convenience of only having one storefront with all games on it? The convenience of having a singular storefront like Steam is great, because they're all there. But I think the competition, it generates innovation and productivity, because it forces companies like Steam, who do all but have the monopoly. Things like GOG are there, but the catalog's not there. They don't have the widespread kind of consumer knowledge that Steam does. Everyone's heard of Steam in the gaming world. So I think if something like Steam of that level, like GOG, if it can like get up there, or the Epic Store, it will force Steam to become better than it currently is in order to compete. Even if it stays better than Epic, doesn't matter. Because it will make everything better for us. No,
definitely. I think what Steam does really well, and I think that's come out of this video, people have pointed out that they've got really good community and social features, as in, you know, your friends are there. On the Steam, they've got forums, they've got community areas, as well as modding, you know, the workshops and stuff like that. They do that really well, do Steam. And that's another place where they're not going to, that Fortnite and the Epic launcher isn't going to rival it, at least at the beginning, until they sort the shit out and maybe offer something that's pretty cool. But in terms of value for money, in terms of customer service, in terms of doing what's right for the customer, I think that's the areas in which we can see a better, you know, a profit and more competitive area, with more competition coming in, the likes of Epic and GOG. Because I think that you know, you can never have good enough customer services in my eyes, and I think that if people have a monopoly, much like Steam has, it doesn't really need to please the most people the most amount of time, because people can be upset, but what choice do they have?
Exactly. If the best option is a pile of shit, you're just going to have to deal with a pile of shit.
We always say, like, vote with your wallet, go elsewhere, buy another game, but you're pretty much limited to Steam, because Steam is so big and like, it's just inconvenient a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to convenience, I think that's such a small barrier. And once people figure out that having a second launcher might save you £10 here, £50 there, it might save you a headache trying to sort some issue out that you're having. If, depending on how the service goes with Epic Games or whatever, what that service is like, you know, once people figure out that they're not going to lose their games by having another launcher, like that's one of the things that came out of the video. A lot of people commenting like, "I'm not going anywhere. All my games are on Steam." Yeah, those games aren't going anywhere, right?
Like, you can stay with Steam and keep all of your hundreds and hundreds of games you've already got.
Yeah.
But also consider this other one where you still get all the benefits. You've already got the benefits of Steam where you are now. That you're not going to lose them. It's not one or the other.
Yeah. I think in terms of, it's quality, service, and price. It comes down to it. Like customer service and price. And price is the biggest one. I think if they can get the prices cheaper on Epic Launcher and the service to a reasonable standard comparable with Steam, then they'll do really well to begin with. But it's all about that. I mean, nobody's going to buy a game on Epic Games Launcher just because the devs get 18% more. They don't fucking care. Yeah. At the end of the day, they want to save money. It's not they don't care about devs. It's, you know, just.
I mean, like that's a nice addition, but I'm buying a game for me.
Yeah,
because I want to be the same.
Unless, you know, you're very conscientious as a consumer.
If you're just altruistic and buying the most expensive.
I mean, a lot of people are. A lot of people really consider where they're putting the money and how that affects the people who they're giving money to and whatever. But majority of people, I would say, don't give a fuck, and they just want a cheap product.
Yeah, like if the price difference is like very slim, like if I can get it a tiny bit cheaper on Steam, I would probably be like, you know, no, I'd go Epic to give a bit more support to that creator. But if it's like a marked difference, like several quid.
Yeah. Well, that's the decision I made when I bought Metro Last Light, because GOG versus Steam, I think it might be £1 cheaper on Steam, like £13 versus £14 or something like that, or it was like 50p difference, whatever. And when it comes down to little margins like that, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go with the service that I want to support most. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, for the sake of £1, it's not even a, you know, Mars bar these days, pretty much. I'll just go with GOG because I like what they do, and it's DRM free. And, you know, I like to support that mentality and that philosophy. And it comes the same with...
Because it's not just the price of it, it's the overall experience of that entity and company or whatever.
Yeah.
And you want to support them to do
well. So there you go. And then Metal Shark has got like an extension to this question, right?
So we got, as an extension to @RogueQuest, with Apple being looked into for the App Store, a single marketplace on their devices being a potential monopoly, should there be similar inquiries to Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo for their consoles? Should we be able to get the Epic Store on those devices?
And this is a tricky one, right? Because Apple have been looked into because apparently, I don't know if it's some sort of lawsuit where they've got a monopoly on the marketplace on their devices, and people are forced to buy from the App Store because there's no alternative, the iStore, because there's no alternative on that platform. I see where they're coming from, because they want to be able to have the choice to, get different, not be dictated to by Apple in terms of prices and in terms of products, because Apple just like brick wall people. Like, this is exact, they dictate what the experience is.
They're the arbiter of like everything, what the consumers allowed.
However, in my opinion, this is Apple's product. This is Apple's house. This is Apple's playground, right? They made the iPhone. They made that platform, and they made that ecosystem. And to dictate that other people should be allowed to sell products on their device, I would say that no. And it's the same when it goes to Nintendo or Sony, whatever. Like, should Microsoft be allowed to sell games on their digital store on Sony or on the Sony console? I don't think so.
No, because there's an exclusivity thing. But then when it comes to Epic, who aren't a console exclusive thing, I think having Epic on all consoles, I think that's great. Yeah. Because that's what consoles are really lacking at the moment, is something like Steam. And Steam is one of the biggest reasons people play on PC, because there's the performance things and all that which you get with your better hardware. But Steam as a marketplace is incredible for like value and the breadth of games you can get.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I don't deny that it would be awesome for consumers. I think having an option in terms of where to put your money keeps things competitive, like we've just discussed, right? Like, and having a competitor on the iPhone, a competitive store on the iPhone in order to get your apps from elsewhere, would make sure that Apple get the best prices and give you the best service or whatever. And they're not able to dictate to anymore. So they've got to review the way that they're treating you, because you're not guaranteed to have your custom. So obviously it's great for consumers. However, because I feel that Sony made the PlayStation, and they shouldn't have to, it's theirs. It's like if someone comes to your amusement park, right? And then they come to one of the stalls in your park and they buy ice cream, but the government forces you to allow someone else to sell ice cream in your amusement park. That doesn't sound right to me. If you're the business owner, if you make that product, if you make that entity, you should fully within your right to dictate who sells and who makes money within that entity, within that area. And that's just how I feel. Maybe the law is wrong, but it doesn't seem fair that you go to all this effort and make this marketplace only to have someone else be forced to force someone else to be allowed to sell on it.
I don't understand the law of this, but I don't get why this is a legal thing. Like,
because you're not allowed to have a monopoly, right?
But like
I think that's the crux of the law. Just so that customers, because so customers do get a fair crack of the whip, and they're not exploited.
But when it comes to mobile phones, don't buy an Apple product.
Yeah, that's the other counterpoint too.
Like, I never use Apple. Not really a bias, like when it comes to mobile phones and stuff. Not really because of a bias, although when I've handled one, it's just a bit like, blah, this is weird, because it's not the system I'm used to. But I've always just had Android, and that transfers across your different brands, like Samsung's I've had before. I'm currently on a Sony something, and they're both Android but completely different companies.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, and I think that's where you have to decide whether it is a monopoly, because there are alternatives. I mean, if it was the only mobile phone out there, if it's the only choice that people had in order to go online and use a smartphone and use phones, then I could see they'd have more of a case. However, there is, like you said, the Android. And it's part of the reason why I don't do Apple is because of their walled ecosystem. The fact that they're very strict with what they allow on it, and they can dictate everything they want within their ecosystem, whereas on Android it's different. There are different marketplaces. You can get different apps from wherever, because it's open, right? And that's where I choose to put my money. That's why I don't buy Apple devices, mobile devices.
Like, I don't think Apple should be forced to put on Android onto their things or anything. I don't think they should be forced to.
Android store,
but they should definitely be allowed to keep iOS, the App Store.
Yeah.
But consumers should acknowledge that the Android Play Store is
if you don't
is
like
better.
Apple, just don't. But you can literally vote with your feet, vote with your wallet.
My girlfriend currently uses an iPhone. Oh, sorry, up until very recently, and the only reason she stuck with Apple was just because it was convenient. It didn't have to like transfer your contacts. You had all your iTunes on there.
But already got a roots in,
like
in the
your
ecosystem.
like account and everything. You've got your roots in. But now she's moved on to, I think she's on a Sony thing as well because she quite liked mine. I know nothing about phones. Just get that.
A Sony thing? Yeah.
It's a Sony something, but I don't remember what it's called. It's a bunch of letters thrown together.
Are you sure it's a mobile phone, not a PlayStation?
Yeah, I've got my PlayStation up by my ear. Yes, and she moved to it just because she was fed up with Apple. The iPhone thing.
Yeah.
She really likes her Mac because she's a bit of she has got a loyalty to Apple because she's got a Mac, she's got an iPad, which she loves both of, but the iOS on the phone, she just completely fell out of favor with.
Yeah. My wife's in the same. Very recently, I bought her a Google Pixel 3 for Christmas.
He knows what it's called.
Because it's the fucking best phone out there. Well, one of the best. And she's been on iPhone for so long. She's had Androids in the past, but one of her things was, I don't want to switch from iPhone because all my stuff's on it. It's like, all you've got to do is plug your wire into your new phone and transfer everything over. Google does that for you. If it can't do it through the wire, it'll do it through the cloud and everything will be changed over. Don't worry about it. And we did it, and it was obviously really flawless. Honestly, it just worked really, really easily. For people who are thinking, I don't want to change from Apple because it'll take ages, it'll be a big faff. It really these days so it's not a faff.
And then like loads of people, I don't want to lose all my stuff, but when I get a new phone, I often use that as a chance to cull all the crap. I've got pictures I don't need. They're not funny. There's no joke to be made. They're just there. It's like I've got one good one and I've taken like 5 to see if I can get the good one. I've still got the other 4. So I'm just like, well, why have I got them? Just delete them and carry over the one I actually want. So it's a good opportunity to cull all your crap,
have a bit
all your
of
apps you don't need. Yeah.
But there you go. That's just my opinion anyway on the exclusivity thing and the monopoly thing. I think you can only say it's a monopoly. And I think Metal Shark says it's being a potential monopoly. Because I mean, personally, in my opinion, well, for what that's worth, I don't think it is. Because like I said, you can make your own theme park and sell your own ice cream. There's no reason. Apple are only making this money because people decide to go there. Yeah,
why should they be legally obliged to include something else when they've done the work?
Yeah, that's just our opinion. Anyway, we've got one more question, is it?
Yeah, one more from Discord from Simply Phil. I thought this was quite a good one. Quite a good talking point in the industry at the moment. I asked a question a very long time ago regarding Bethesda and their reputation for delivering buggy games. Yes, this was before Fallout 70 shit. Nice.
70 shit.
Do you and Gaz feel that people, including fanboys, have finally woken up to the fact that this isn't acceptable behaviour for a studio of the size of Bethesda? They seem to get more free passes than anyone else. From buggy games, crappy engine use, monetization of free mods, not once but twice, and now accidentally releasing P2.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely familiar with that one. But yeah, I think people have woken up. A lot. It's kind of been... But they've been called Bugthesda for ages, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I think people have...
What's turned from a meme is turned into...
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, it's like, it's Bugthesda. It was almost endearing for a lot of people. It's a bit goofy, a bit buggy and that. But with Fallout 76, non-Fallout fans like me, I've got worked up about this, about how the fucking state of it.
Yeah.
And the precedent it sets in the industry.
Yeah. I think people are more... I'm not going to use this. I'm going to more woke these days. I was going to use that word. I'm sorry. It's the first time I've ever used that word. But since last year, since the whole EA thing, since everyone and his dog now is making a YouTube video about how bad Bethesda is and about any shit that happens in the industry, people are a lot more informed as to what's happening, and especially since YouTubers can make an absolute killing making a video based on a single tweet a lot of the time. That all this information comes at you so thick and fast now, and there's so many reasons to get upset with companies, and rightly so too, because this whole Bethesda thing is bullshit, and it's just been a complete and utter train wreck for them.
Every stage of it, they've made it worse.
Even the Power Armor edition of
with the bag.
The game, with the bag that was nylon, it was supposed to be canvas, right? For those people, apparently, right, for those people who requested a refund or got in touch with them and raised the ticket, right, all their information got leaked.
Yeah, just like yesterday or something.
And it's like, it's just another nail in the coffin for Bethesda. It really is. They can't do anything right at the moment, and they can't catch a break. And that's the trouble with. Just the trouble for Bethesda right now is that there's so many people willing to highlight the shit that they're doing, because everybody's talking about how bad their product is and how poorly that they've treated people, is that any single little thing they do is under high scrutiny.
Yes.
And this, again, rightfully so, they should be called out for the shit. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but it's just bad timing for Bethesda. Had they done this, you got to think, like 5 years ago, they probably would have gotten away with a lot of this. This thing probably happened a lot of time in the past, not just Bethesda, a lot of other game companies, but nobody gets away with it anymore. There's just so many people talking about games, talking about things happening in the industry right now, that nothing gets swept in the carpet anymore.
As soon as you make a little mistake, but like a big mistake, like the Fallout 76 launch with all the beta crap and all that, as soon as you make a mistake like that, every other thing you do is under the spotlight.
Yeah, and I think
everything.
I think I read a Kotaku article about this problem with the doxing or whatever it is. You know, you release information, right? I think this quote from Luke Plunkett, the Kotaku journalist, sums it up pretty nicely for me. And he said, "I can't believe this game and now its support is such a mess that I've had to write 3 stories about a plastic bag."
Oh, it's so fucking true. Oh man,
that just sums everything up right now.
Like, and every time there's a Fallout thing on my YouTube thing, on my Twitter, just in like gaming news, I don't have the patience to read it anymore. I just don't care, because it's such bullshit.
Yeah,
it's still not the journalism, but well, some cases, but the whole,
it's just how much of it there is.
Like the problem is still there, and I'm just like, oh, it's fucking still happening. I'm so done with it, man.
Yeah, there's just so much, and the problem is for us as creators, as people who cover this type of stuff, is that we could easily make 3 videos in a week about Bethesda.
Oh yeah,
it's like, how much of this like shit do we want to like? What I would rather do now in terms of like creating content, I would rather wait a week, get everything together, and make a more concise video to cover everything, and just be more like a journalist about it rather than reactionary about it.
Yeah, that's the reactionary is definitely the word, because so many, I'm not trying to like diss channels or anything, but there's so many game news outlets that as soon as anything happens, they're on it, and that's their brand.
But that is crucial. It's crucial that they do that to keep people informed. But I mean, you could argue people can go to articles or whatever, but you know, people don't want to read Kotaku anymore. People want their news from their trusted sources, Yongye or
because you've got a face to it, like a human being.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said on this, and it goes way beyond Bethesda. And this is a bigger
industry
change. The whole industry is changing in terms of coverage and how people scrutinize things to the nth degree now. And I think rightly so, because in the end, all this will mean is that they won't get away with the shit, and they'll realize that they won't be able to get away with the shit anymore. I think it's great that this is happening, even though we do have to go through these times where it just seems like it's just fucking bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. People are waking up, and information gets to them a lot quicker these days. There's just no getting away from it. So, hope that answers your question, Phil.
Yeah, do they get the free pass? No, they fucking don't.
They fucking don't, and they shouldn't do either. Nobody should. And I think, is that it? Do we have anything else?
We've got some YouTube comments. Not that many were funny that I found. There were a few funny ones, but there was one I really appreciated, which lots of people liked and were commenting the same thing, which was on the Game Awards video. The one who came up as the top comment was a chap with a Greek name, which I had to translate because I'm so clever using Google. Polycarpus Papadopoulos. Secret new Dragon Age equals Dragon Age Mobile. It's a lot of the old Dragon Age Mobile.
A lot of that, yeah.
If that's a thing. There is no way. Like, even if EA were trying to do that, you'd have to look at Blizzard and be like, all right, if we're doing this, we are fucking waiting. Or maybe they're going to try and hide it, but like we said, they're going to sneak it in behind Anthem. But Anthem's not. It's not established. It doesn't have the brand loyalty.
It's kind of so weird that it's a meme, but it's also a legitimate concern these days because this is what the industry is like now, and it's the same with monetization. It's like, this game looks awesome. It looks fantastic. That game, give me that gameplay, give me it. But how the fuck are they going to monetize it? Because that could ruin the fucking game. The game isn't what it looks like. Yeah. It's what it looks like as well as how they've monetized it. And that goes part and parcel with your whole experience these days, because you might not be able to get what they're showing you on the trailer because it might be behind a paywall, or it might be in an additional microtransaction or whatever. And it's like, it's a meme, it's funny, but it could, the fact that it's just a cash grab. It's all about money, isn't it? It's about making money out of mobile games, making money out of microtransactions, making money however they can, and monopoly and just industrializing this whole fucking thing. Where they're just trying to make money.
It's not a way we should be thinking, but it's the grim reality of it. Like,
it weighs you down, doesn't it? I just want good games, man. That's why I love indie games. It's simple. Like X4, I bought it, and it's like, I know there's not going to be microtransactions here. Buy it, and I've just got a full game. Yeah, it's going to be like a brick wall getting used to it, and like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But at least there's no fucking microtransactions in it. Exactly. At least I can have a whole experience. There's no like multiplayer in it, and there's no shady monetization methods, and there's nothing to really put me off this game. It's just something that I can explore in my own time and have fun with, and nothing's going to put me off. I love that. Like, there's not, it's just that the industry is just rotting.
It's just a shame.
Rotting away on the AAA level. But there is games out there.
There are.
Find your games.
Okay, another comment which I thought was very funny on our video about Steam versus the new Epic Store, which is supposed to be happening, from a chap called Orcs. I believe their name was. Yep, Orcs. Hello, Henry. It's me, your mother.
Your mother.
With the female emoji face. And
is it your mum?
No.
Can we confirm it? Did you ask her?
Well, because the way it's written, that's the kind of, like, the way she would write it. Although maybe
hello, Henry. It's me, your mother.
I think she might be a bit more, gushy. Be like, kiss, like hot, XOXO, whatever, because she's a bit of a loser, but she's adorable.
Can't call your mum a loser.
But then, or like,
did she watch that video, by the way? Because
I don't know. I haven't found out.
Because that was the video that you were like dry humping.
Yeah. I was bending over. I can't even remember what now. Funny though.
Yeah, you were having air sex with something or other, a simulating sex in the air, and I mentioned it'd be funny that your mum would see it.
Yep.
But she hasn't.
We don't know. I think she watches quite a lot of them, but I don't know if she's seen it. But then I clicked on this person's thing because their icon it's like a cute bear or something, like a cartoon bear. I was like, oh, well, that could be her Google account. Maybe it's not hard to believe. Clicked on it, and it's just like a bunch of Fallout upload videos or something. No, Fortnite. Sorry, Fortnite.
Fortnite videos.
I'm like, there's no way my mum knows what Fortnite is. That even if she likes any game, she wouldn't give a fuck about Fortnite.
So it's confirmed, not your mum.
Confirmed from my research.
I'm surprised I'm surprised that more people didn't claim to be your mum. I'm surprised there's no parody of Henry's mum accounts by now.
Yeah,
that should definitely be a thing.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, and she did upload a video called "What a Weenie 99 Kill Game" with 47 views, published 2 months ago, from Orcs.
Let's be honest, probably not.
Probably not. So, maybe, who knows?
But there you go.
But then this person did get 73 likes. So maybe my mum is in there.
They got their lags. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's podcast. And I guess we will see you again next week. This has been podcast number 7. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and thanks as always for being a patron and supporting the content, because we really, honestly, could not do it without you guys. From the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate it, because without you, we wouldn't be able to produce content like we do. And we will be back now, not tomorrow, but next week in the podcast for another podcast number 8. Like I said earlier, that will be our last one before the Christmas break. So get any questions that you've got to ask us in on the bottom of this comment in the comment section of this Patreon post, or actually on the YouTube, because you can get to the YouTube page through clicking. I know you guys can manage to do that, and I read them anyway. So anyway, you want to ask questions, leave them there, because we do like the questions, don't we? So that's it then. We will see you again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.